Wildcard weekend is in, and are we beating the Chargers for the second time in 3 weeks? Can we really beat them again? Hey guys, this is the video that we go behind enemy lines with the enemy from Lock on Chargers. It's a pre-recorded. Last time was live 3 weeks ago. This time we decided to just do it offline instead of live. And you're gonna see their opinions and their predictions coming right out.
Renegade, renegade.
Guys, thanks for being in the show. Lockdown Chargers. This is chapter 2. I still have no voice from Sunday's game. As you can see, my voice is still pretty bad. But I'm excited for this game against the Chargers. I'm excited. I'm excited for taking the opportunity to show it wasn't a fluke. But I'm gonna start is I want to take your guys' take from the when we play you guys. What do you saw from that game? Where you think you guys failed? Where you guys think you succeeded? What you hoping to do better in the second game?
Okay, well, I'll start off and then I'll throw it to John. But the biggest issue for me in that game was the Chargers were behind the sticks all game long on the offensive side of the ball. And that is a recipe for disaster when you're going up against the best defense in the league. You cannot be in 2nd and 14, 3rd and 9. That's not going to work. So the Chargers were put behind the sticks, partially with self-inflicted wounds with their penalties. They did do that a lot. But that's something that cannot happen again in this rematch. The penalties have to be cleaned up, and the Chargers need to put themselves in those manageable down and distance situations, which did not happen. John, what about you, man? What was the biggest issue in your mind in that first Ravens game?
Self-inflicted wounds. We had so many opportunities to move the ball on offense, and we would shoot ourselves in the foot whenever we did it. So we would get a completion on 3rd and 15 for the first down. Nope. Coming back on holding. Or a nice big run by Melvin Gordon. No, there's an illegal shift. Bring it back. And then Phillip Rivers was doing typical Phillip Rivers stuff and only looking down one guy on the play. So if he wanted to go to Keenan Allen on a play, he would stare Keenan Allen down the whole time. And if Allen didn't get open, he would just throw it at someone's feet. And on the other side of the field, there's somebody getting wide open. He doesn't even bother looking that way. It's just we had our opportunities and we shot ourselves in the foot. Defense started slow, yeah, but they picked it up as it went on and only gave up 16 points. And at the end of the game, you had a chance to win it and you fumbled the ball.
Yeah, absolutely.
So those are all good points. I do agree. I do remember you saying, John, that Phillip Rivers does stare at the receivers, and I did see that on the game. I remember also asking you guys about your O line, because this week's game, I don't know if you guys watched it, the Ravens and Browns.
Of course we did.
For us, the biggest issue was Baker is slippery. He doesn't run like Lamar, but he's slippery. So he gets out of the trouble and he finds the guy. Versus with Rivers, we were able to hit him because he wasn't moving, right? He doesn't get out of the pocket as well. I think one of the keys for us is keep hitting Rivers because he started looking uncomfortable. And I remember telling you guys, like, if you guys protect Rivers, it's going to be a long day for us. Because I think we do have the corners to match up with your receivers, but a corner can only cover for so long. Like if your O-line can hold protection, pass protection, your receivers are getting open because the league is meant for a receiver to get open. But if your O-line doesn't give time with Rivers, which they couldn't give time to Rivers during that game, then our corners can hold. It's not a knock on your guys' receivers. Love Allen, and Allen had a decent game. He had 5 receptions for like 50-something yards. And I personally like Williams too. And even Benjamin. Benjamin is a trickster. He's fast. You can do a lot of things for him. But that being said, if you guys don't protect Rivers, I think that's the recipe for success. A lot of people are talking like, oh, well, Chargers are going to adjust to Lamar, and it might happen. But Two things. I have been hearing this for 4 weeks. One. Second, I think the biggest thing is your guys' offense needs to adjust to our defense because when Philip Rivers has 181 total yards and two interceptions, Lamar Jackson out threw him for 204 yards and one TD. That's pretty bad. And in your guys' case, that's the recipe for success for us. Keep running, keep top of possession, keep Philip Rivers on the sideline, and when he comes, hit him hard, frustrating. I don't know. What do you guys think?
But there are things that the Chargers can do to slow down the pass rush. That means that they need to get a couple of guys extra into chip on Suggs. They need to use some draws. They need to get some wide receiver screens, some running back screens in there. They need to slow down the pass rush. That way that the Ravens have to think twice. They can't just send the house on every play. They have to think, hey, are they going to run the ball? I don't know. That you can't be as predictable, and the game plan has to be different. But yes, the ball has to come out of Rivers' hands in this game a lot quicker. I need to see them pick up the tempo in this one. That has to happen. The crossing routes, the short passes, the extensions with the running back in the passing game with Eckler and Melvin Gordon through the air, which Eckler's a weapon you guys didn't see last time. And then, John, a big weakness that I saw is, they had a little bit of trouble covering Antonio Gates, and he's 38 years old, which is kind of funny. There are some rumors, some pretty strong reports out there that our star tight end, Hunter Henry, who is coming off of an ACL injury, is going to be back and will play in this game. So that, I think, is going to be an issue for that Ravens defense. John, what do you think, man?
Yeah, Hunter Henry can be an issue. When you brought up doing screenplays, the Chargers have not been the best at screenplays because mostly they like to run it to the outside. So it'll be an off-tackle screen or it'll be a wide receiver screen, and we're just not successful like that. If we're going to run a screen, I want it to be the kind of screen where the running back acts like he's in the offensive line to block, and then he goes and sets up in front of the linebackers for a screen after everyone's already blitzed in. Because that's the best way you're going to beat the Ravens. If you run a screen to the outsides along the tackles, they're going to see it's there, and they're going to prepare for it when they blitz. They're that well-disciplined. They prepare for it. They know it's coming. They're not some other team that's going, you know what, screw it. We're going to sit in the house and hope for the best, and you see it coming and just drop off the screen. The Ravens are going to sit in the house and have a guy waiting for that screen. They're that disciplined. But
yeah,
when you brought up people down. When you brought up, it's not going to slow them down. They're just going to have a guy ready. They know what they're doing. But if you use the crossing routes now, like you mentioned, that's definitely going to slow them down because now you have a guy that's going where the linebackers used to be, and you're going to have guys that go to where that safety that has to cover that linebacker now used to be. So sitting the tight ends out on hook routes or out routes like they were with Gates. Now you have Hunter Henry who can do that, who can also go deep down the seam. Guys that can make one-on-one coverage plays like Mike Williams. You got to set up those kind of plays. And there was plays where the Ravens would call a zone, and the guys would get lost in that zone, but Rivers never looked that way. So like sending Travis Benjamin deep, wide open, never looked to the left side of the field.
Yeah, he missed Travis Benjamin a couple of times.
Yeah, he never looked to the other side of the field. He stared down one guy. And in this game, if you want to win, you have to hit your options. The Ravens are disciplined. They're great. But they do have open spots in the defense. But the part I'm looking for this week, and I want to hear your guys' opinion on this, is Eric Weddle, who knows Philip Rivers so well that he's just going to call the plays and know what Rivers is going to do. If he sees Rivers make an audible, Weddle's already knowing, okay, in this situation, he tends to like to go to this and this. And the way to stop that is to make him go to his weak point or something along those lines. So I think Rivers needs to figure out a way to make a different audible that Weddle will not see coming.
Yeah, no, I think, changing up the terminology and also changing up some of his tendencies will help try to combat that. And yeah, Weddle and Rivers played together for several years, and they always compared notes after practices. But I think in this game, he can definitely change his tendencies a little bit and not paint as clear of a picture for Eric Weddle to try to take advantage. And that's funny. Eric Weddle is really, really confident in this game. He said after we beat the Chargers, we're going to go forward. I was like, hey, man, you really think this is going to be a cakewalk? You got another thing coming.
I don't think he's thinking he's going to be a cakewalk. I just think He knows if you check Vegas, you check the numbers, you're gonna be the underdogs. You guys were 12-4, we were 10-6. Now
Yeah, but
that being
you get 3 points for being at home, period, and it's only a 2.5 favorite. So I'm
yeah,
not really that convinced. You know what I'm saying?
well, that's what I'm saying. He knows people are not usually a home playoff game should be more than 3 points,
Sure.
but people think that the Chargers are gonna win this game. So he's basically saying, whoa, 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 we're gonna beat them. He's confident, which is fine. If you ask Philip Rivers, he's probably thinking they're playing KC next week. But I agree with a lot of the points that you guys were saying. I think one of our biggest weakness or how teams have exploited us is that 5 to 8 yard tight end curl. Usually that passes there. Usually, and I hate it. The Steelers killed us like that. McDonald was like there open all the time. No,
As Gates in our game
yes,
against Jets.
and Gates is smart. He doesn't need to be fast, but he knew where the soft spot on the zone where he
He
just
does do
sat there.
that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he just sat there and he had good hands. Now, with the whole Benjamin thing, I think the problem was because Rivers was getting hit. Not necessarily, he only got 4 sacks, but he got hit. His internal clock starts clicking, right? So if he didn't see that first guy open, he knows there's this rusher coming, and he was, rushing to throw the ball out. Um, that's
Yeah,
why I
but there was
think.
also times where the pocket held up and he still
Oh,
never
I
looked to
agree.
the other side of the field. He just went his one option, two option, and then never even gave the other side of the field the chance. He already just said, "Oh, they're not open. Okay, play's dead."
I agree, John.
Part of
But I
that's the
think
game plan, though, too. Part of that's the game plan.
it could be. But I guess my point
It's
is
bad.
because you're getting hit all the time, you're thinking even the
Certainly.
pocket's clean, but he's looking right, right. So he's not looking left, and even though the pressure's not there because his game clock is ticking, he might think, okay, they're coming on my left side, and he's trying to avoid a sack.
Well,
Um,
it's not him thinking of the offensive line. That's just who Rivers is. Rivers always looks down his one receiver. He's never been the guy that looks the whole field. Sometimes he does, but he rarely does. It's just who Rivers is.
okay, so now to the point of Lamar Jackson. This boy is 15, 16. 6 or 7 teams have been trying to stop him, right? And I remember talking to you guys, and you guys were confident we're gonna put 6, 7, 8 people in the box, and we're gonna stop the run, and we're gonna contain him, force him to throw, and that's you. I think David was very overconfident. You guys were gonna just smash the Ravens. John had a close game in that podcast that we did. You have the Chargers slim advantage, but you had the Chargers winning. And you looked at me and like I was crazy when I said the Ravens were winning by 4 points, I think, as the score prediction that I put in. But that being said, what is your thought of Lamar Jackson? Now you saw him full game. I know you saw the Cleveland game, but you saw him against the Chargers. What do you guys think? How he played? How you can contain it?
I mean, he was solid. I mean, he's still very, very easy throws. I mean, he didn't do anything crazy in the passing game. Everything is set up on that offense to make things very easy for Lamar Jackson in the passing game. That is very, very clear. He's only going to throw the ball if he feels very, very comfortable that he's going to get a completion. There's nothing going to be very tricky. Obviously, he's dynamic on the ground running the ball. There's no question about that. But yeah, I was very overconfident, but also in the beginning of that game, you guys ran the ball very, very well. But I think the Chargers adjusted in the second half to the running game and definitely did a much of stopping that running attack, or at least slowing it down. It was definitely not as effective as it was in the first half.
Go ahead, John.
My opinion on Lamar Jackson hasn't changed. I scouted him for the NFL draft. I scout a bunch of NFL players so that when we do our draft show, I have a good idea who I want the Chargers to get. And I wanted us to get Lamar Jackson. I wanted us to trade a few of our picks, maybe a future first-round pick or something to move up to get Lamar Jackson to be part of our game plan. And that didn't happen. So I never had any bad opinion about Lamar Jackson. I knew he was going to be dangerous. I knew he was going to be someone we had to really prepare for. But I thought the Chargers offense would have eventually found a way to win that game, and I
Game
thought
plan was terrible.
I thought because the Ravens offense was mostly about the run that they would have eventually figured it out, and they did eventually start to figure it out, but the offense, no matter how many times the defense got a 3 and out, the offense kept shooting themselves with penalties, and no matter how many big plays we got, we kept coming back. So my opinion on Lamar Jackson doesn't change. The only thing that my opinion really changes is how much I trust our offense going into the playoff. That's the only opinion that changes. Lamar Jackson to me is still a guy that's going to be pretty good in the NFL as long as he doesn't get injuries like RG3, because he could be another RG3 case where he looks dynamic, he looks good, but then injury, because he's not really the biggest guy either.
So that being said, I think Lamar had rushing the ball his worst game against you guys. He rushed for 39 yards, so that's obviously not great. But I think that your outside linebackers were making a lot of containment, and that's where he usually rushed. Lamar doesn't rush in the middle of the field. That's the running back. That's Gus Edwards. Lamar likes the edges because then he can go outside to prevent a hit.
Because
Um,
he's
yeah,
speed and he's not
he's
power.
speedy. Exactly. And then, if you run through the middle of the field, he doesn't like to slide. You're usually going to get a big pounding, right? On the sides, if you see that guy coming, you can go step out of bounds. Now, that being said, our running back had 92 yards, so that's pretty good. And I agree with David. This offense is set up for Lamar to have easy throws, easy completions. And that's what I told you guys. When you put 8, 9 people in the box, there's going to be open space. And usually that's the easy completions. That's why people are saying like, "Oh, yeah, well, we can stop the run." Yeah, but he can still throw. And when you make him, when there's easy completions out there for him to throw, that's when the ball gets moving. Now, the other thing that we haven't talked about is the crowd. I know you guys are really good in the road, right?
8-0 away from LA.
Yeah, 8 and
Not just
0.
on the road. Not just
Yeah.
on the road, away from LA. Because we did have an away game at the Rams, which is still LA, and that was a loss. So when you're actually out of that city of LA, it's 8-0.
So LA is it's a bad spot for you guys. I got you. Go back to San Diego, right?
No argument here.
But anyway, so you guys are really good. M&T is going to be booming. I think also is important goes back to that pressure part. Can the O-line communicate when the crowd is booming? When we put 7, 8 people on that line, not all of them coming, they had to figure out who's coming, who's doing a twist, who's pulling back. Can that O-line? I know you told me that your left guard, I think it was, this was your weakest link, right?
And Feeney.
Yeah.
The what?
Left
And
guard,
Feeney.
yeah.
Okay. So the question for you guys is, how do you think this O-line is going to hold on the hostile environment, against the blitz, against the exotic looks that the Ravens bring?
Honestly, not really too concerned about the M&T crowd. I mean, let's be honest. The Chargers play very, very well on the road. They're conditioned to do that. They're battle tested. They've won some really good games, close games in Kansas City, in Pittsburgh. I mean, those are raucous places. The 12th man in Seattle, probably one of the loudest in the NFL. So, sound-wise, I'm not really too concerned. I'm not really too worried about that. But as far as the pressure is concerned, yeah, that's the big issue. Obviously, you have to keep Phillip Rivers clean and upright if you want this game to be different. But also, like I mentioned before, before I cut out, the game plan has to be different in this game. You cannot be doing all the 7-step drops. And let me be specific. The long developing plays, those have to get cut out or they have to be used in opportune times. They cannot just be thrown out there. They need to be set up properly with the run game and with the short passing game. I'm not saying take the long passes and scrap them. I'm saying they need to be set up a lot better in this football game against this defense.
So I guess my point with the crowd noise is because I do agree. Probably the 12 man in Seattle is the loudest, but all those teams that you name, their defense hasn't come close to what the Ravens defense. So now you put the noise of the crowd with the top defense. You shake your head, but it's important
Mm.
because when a defense is booming, a defense that's what the offense needs to communicate, right? Like KC, that's their Achilles heel. Their defense is bad. There's place to be exposed. Seattle's
Not their
is
defensive line. The KC defensive line is not bad. Just the rest of them is bad.
well, the rushers are bad. I'm sorry, the rushers are good. They're outside rush.
Yeah, Chris
The D
Jones
line,
was in Rivers' face all game, and he somehow made plays.
I agree. The D line is good, but when your corners are not great, you can expose them in 2 seconds, right?
Sure.
You don't need an O line to hold that bad. Um, Pittsburgh's defense is up and down, and Seattle's defense is solid. It's not what it used to be, but it's solid. So I think you are overconfident that the crowd noise is not going to affect the offensive side with our defense being so good.
I'm only overconfident because of what I have seen throughout the season. It's not misguided confidence. It's confidence given off of what I have seen the Chargers do in all the different environments that they've been in. I mean, and even London, you can include that. That's not a home game. I mean, it's considered a home game, but that's not at home. That's another away game that the Chargers won again on the road. So honestly, and that's just me, I'm not worried about crowd noise. That does not bother me.
I think it's more of, regardless if there's crowd noise or not, if you're going to talk about the D-line doing stunts and random stuff like that, whether there's crowd noise or not, it can beat us because Dan Feeney is not good at adjusting to the stunts. We used to have a guy we drafted at Notre Dame named Chris Watts, and the Chargers O-line was okay throughout the year, but once we played the Patriots and Belichick put him on ice skates, because with all his stunts, Chris Watt was gone in the offseason. We didn't bring him back because of what that happened. Feeney's kind of the same guy. If you run a stunt with him, he doesn't know how to adjust to it. There was a couple of stunts against the Ravens where Mike Pouncey went to his guy, but Feeney had no idea where to go, and Feeney's guy came in and hit Rivers. Feeney's just undisciplined, whether there's crowd noise or not. I don't think crowd noise is going to be the factor because we have played louder teams. I think it's going to be more how disciplined is Dan Feeney. That's whether there's crowd noise or not. I think Rivers is really well at being vocal and telling his guys what to do. It's just how disciplined are you at executing what you're supposed to do.
Okay, so just to conclude, I want your take. What are you expecting for this game? Final score prediction. Go ahead.
John, you go first.
I'm not confident at all that we have not played well to close the season. We keep beating ourselves. It's not so much. I think the Ravens are going to beat us. I just think we're going to do what we've done all year and start beating ourselves with penalties and stuff. And the coaching staff has not shown that they can make this team adjust. We do the same mistake we've done from week 1 all the way up till now. So I don't think we're winning this game. Probably going to lose this game. I'm going to say somewhere around 19-13.
1913. Go ahead, David. You're shaking your head. You guys are funny because you disagree so much.
But that's what makes our dynamic.
I know.
Of our
It's
show
awesome.
great,
It's awesome.
because we don't all agree on everything. I mean, if we're all agreed on everything, it would be a pretty boring show. That's
Agreed.
why we have different personalities. But yeah, no, I don't agree with that because I think there will be adjustments that will be made. I think they will be much better prepared. And let's be honest, it's really difficult to beat a team twice in the span of just a couple of weeks. That is difficult. And I think there's a blueprint to beat the Ravens, but you have to be flawless. You cannot shoot yourself in the foot like John has alluded to, and you have to have a more effective game plan. In the playoffs, your margin of error is a lot less. You have to be on point the entire game. Now, I'm not going to be crazy and say this is going to be a high-scoring game because it's not.
Not like last time.
Two great defenses, one better offense, but also a very, very good rushing offense that has controlled the clock. For me, I think the Chargers will make some adjustments, and I think it'll be a much closer game. I'm going to go with a 17-14, but I'm going with the Charger victory. And I think if they do beat the Ravens, I think that will be the hardest test going forward throughout the playoffs. If they beat the Ravens, they're going to the Super Bowl. I'm calling it right now.
Damn, ballsy. So let me start
Yep.
with if they beat the Ravens, I do agree with you. I think KC. My biggest fear was KC coming and the run that we were doing, but it was KC with Hunt. Once Hunt
Yeah.
was out of the picture, that team's not the same. And I love Mahomes. And Mahomes is a beast, but Hunt gave him that extra level, right?
Sure.
So, I do think if you guys beat us, you guys are going to the Super Bowl, but that's not going to happen because you're losing this game. I have the Ravens 23-17. I think it's going to be close. We put up 2 touchdowns, and the rest is going to be Justin Tucker's field goals. I have Lamar throwing for a 220, around 220, so similar to the last game, and 50 yards rushing, so nothing crazy rushing. So, and I do think we'll prevail. I think our defense will do just enough. I have Rivers throwing 2 touchdowns, and you guys getting 1 field goal. Something that we didn't talk about much was Gordon. Gordon, we held him in check. I know he was coming off the injury, but he got nicked in the last game. So I do like the other running backs too. I think you guys, the whole backfield is pretty good, pretty solid. It's just our run defense is pretty solid as well. So it's gonna be interesting. So we have two of us going for the Ravens. David, the lone wolf, going to the Chargers, calling the Chargers to the Super Bowl if they beat the Ravens. I do agree with that. If big if they beat the Ravens. So just to conclude, guys, just throw where people can find you.
Yeah, no. So, and hey, thanks for inviting us on to do the show. We always love talking football, so that's always fun. But hey, you can find us if you want to check out our daily show. That's going to be Locked On Chargers. That's going to be Monday through Friday most of the time. 30-minute just audio, and we're everywhere you can find your podcast. Whether that be Google, whether that be iTunes, it doesn't matter. Spotify, wherever you get your podcast, we are there. You can even go to your smart speaker and just say play podcast Locked On Chargers, and you will get our latest episode. But you can follow us on Twitter at Locked On LAC. If you want to see our ugly mugs, we do our weekly Facebook show. That's our personal show. That's Chargers Domination Live. We've done that for the last 3 years. But hey, we get it. We're in the playoffs this year. First time in our show's inauguration that we've been able to talk about playoff football. That's Chargers Dom Pod on Twitter and Chargers Domination Live on Facebook.
Cool. Well, thank you. Thank you for being here, guys. I do appreciate it. I think it's always fun. I think it's always fun bringing the other side because you guys know your Chargers better than anybody, like I do about Ravens, right? So it was fun. Thanks. Trash talking like always on Twitter. I keep it clean. But hey, it was good. Thank you for coming. I'll see you guys.
All right. Thanks, man.
So guys, there you have it. I still without a voice since Sunday. It was crazy. It was a crazy game. Loved it. You saw my prediction. I think the Ravens will win. You saw one of the guys from the Chargers. He thinks the Ravens will win. We all need to show up to the bank. Cheer our team. They think the crowd noise is not going to be a factor because the Chargers have been so good throughout the year. We need to show them that they're wrong. So, anyway, if you like this video, please give it a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, and follow me on Twitter at SCG Sports. I'll see you next time.